Okay, we are live here, and I am so excited to welcome Noelle. And I'm going to vamp for just a couple of minutes here, just before we get started. Make sure all the tech is sorted
Absolutely. That we're
and
live everywhere.
we're live. And it's been a fun rally so far. We're halfway in, I think, at this point, and we're really excited to um, introduce it to Noelle, um, who was a regional officer when I first met her at Conference 95 when I was just a baby. And it's so wonderful now to get to bring all that full circle and bring you up here. Um, and I think I'm just going to wait and see if I can get a thumbs up from my team, make sure everything is going, because I see zero viewership. I would like to see more than zero. Okay.
I did get texted. Someone was like, "Are you going to be on it this time?" I'm like, yes. So, or at least
Yes.
one person.
All right. Streams up. Streams up. People are joining. Great. All
Yay.
right. So we are good to go. And now I'll be sit backstage. So if you need me, call me up. But otherwise, you are ready to
We're good to
go.
go.
And I'll let you run with it.
Awesome. Thanks. I'm so excited to be here. This is really cool. I actually had not really thought about this whole community. And I feel bad that I kind of forgot. Oh my gosh, someone was nice enough to post pictures of me as a child to Facebook. So that was cool. But what a fun event. I've heard such good things from people that are attending. So, really excited to be here to just share with you a little bit about my world and hopefully encourage us, as we go through the next year and maybe up till the next session, right? Like we do a little call for speakers, and who knows who might be in this audience, someone who could be the next person up here talking to us. I love the idea that we can learn more about each other. I'm Noelle Silver. In case you don't know who I am, I have really made a name for myself from a branding perspective in the area of artificial intelligence. I'm one of the top speakers in the world. I'm multi-award winning. But the cool thing is, or at least in my mind, I feel like the reason much of my success is attributed to my mindset and the way that I show up in a room. I recently coined this term called love fluencers, and we just hit 1 million views on TikTok, by the way. But super exciting, right? Love fluencers. And it's really just a short, slight deviation from a typical social media influencer. There's no bikinis, there's not so much dancing, but there is a lot of love and empathy and sharing and value. And like, how do we make sure that whatever it is we're passionate about, maybe it's a business, maybe it's a service, maybe it's what we want to give to the world, but we can do it without having to do it under the lens of like Lamborghinis and helicopters in the background. And, I live in Miami. You know what those music videos look like, right? I wanted to create a new type of influencer. And it's actually pretty interesting. Just today, I got a note from Andy Frisella. He wrote 75 Hard. I don't know if you know that philosophy, but it's an interesting read. But one thing he said today, he was focused on authenticity and influence. And I actually coined just a few days ago, created a new course called The Ministry of Influence, and how it's just different. It's different than it was 5 years ago, and it's dramatically different than it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago, or, goodness knows, however long it's been since I was in Y.O.U. But what is key is that everything that I learned when I was 6 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old is exactly what some influencers that are extremely successful in this world, it is the same messaging that they are using to drive their businesses, to create community, right? And we know this by heart. We live this every day. Some of us maybe have gotten away from some of our practices, but at the heart of it, we learn this pretty young. It's like riding a bike, right? Like it's always part of who we are. And I really think that now more than ever is the time for this to happen. So I'm super excited to be here. I'm actually going to go ahead and share my screen so you could see. I built a little presentation for you all, which I'm happy to share with you. It has a lot of stuff. So I will tell you, I was born in New York, raised in South Florida. I do talk a bit fast. I also, some people say that I speak 3 generations ahead of people. In other words, they tend to say I'm a bit of a futurist. And that's probably true. So some of what you will see here in this presentation is going to be about the future. But I have consistently in my career stepped into the future right now, made the future my present, and it has served me well. So I want to share a little bit about that with you. So, of course, first and foremost, I am so grateful to this team for putting this together and creating this environment. So grateful for Lynn's for even having the idea that I could do this, because I speak on so many stages, but none like this, right? None of my people. I'm always saying things where people are like, oh, that's an interesting philosophy. That's an interesting point of view. No one who can look at me and go, I know exactly what you're talking about. I do the same thing. So this is a really great opportunity. What I do want to do, though, is take all those things that are great about the principles that we have learned and maybe have been practicing in our lives as part of the unity movement and show you how you can apply it to building real social capital. Social capital you can use in this world to build businesses, create brands, become product influencers, right? And actually build an income. That's been a missing link for some of us, right? Where like, how can I do this work that I want to do and get paid? And it's never been easier to put those two things together. So I'm going to show you some tips on how to do that. First of all, though, this is me and my gaggle. I start, and this is for those of you looking to create influence, one of the unique things that I do, especially among my peers in industry, is that I always start with my story. I always start with who I am versus what I do or what I'm selling or what I'm promoting, right? I always start with me, and I start with why. Why do I do what I do? I mean, I can remember many a family group where we talked about, right, what is your why and what are you going to do with it? And so this is how I start every talk. I could be on a stage in front of a bunch of academics. I could be talking to a bunch of, Fortune 100 CEOs, and I start exactly the same way, because this is how we connect, and it's different than almost anyone else I share the stage with. Probably not in this environment, but certainly out in the world, right? So I'm Noelle. I do work for Red Hat, which is part of IBM today. I'm actually in the process of going for partner at IBM, which is an executive position. My last little checkbox on the journey of my vision board that I created when I was 22 years old. I am the owner of actually 3 entrepreneurial efforts, companies. One pretty successful leadership institute called the AI Leadership Institute. It's the only one of its kind. We've been partnered with Microsoft and Amazon to teach the world about AI, which is really cool. But I also started Lovefluencers last year. We have over 300 members, and we did a challenge. Some of you were there. It was super fun. We're going to do another one. Every year I do it during the Thanksgiving week, because I take that week off, and we do a challenge. You can find us on Facebook or just ping me, and I'm happy to have you. It's free. Like, we just go have a good time, but we apply what I'm about to show you in this kind of whirlwind tour. I do have 2 podcasts if you want to check it out. I have Lovefluencer podcast, which just tells good stories of people overcoming, and the AI Manifesto, which it's a little Black Mirror-y sometimes for those of you who know the show, but it tends to be Noelle style, super optimistic. How do we use AI for good, and how do we change the world with this technology? So I am super excited to share these next few steps with you. If you've got a pen and paper, now's the time to get it ready. Make sure it's got some ink. I love pencils for exactly that reason. This is my link tree. It has all links to me. I love it because it's like everywhere I am on the internet. Yes, of course, I guess you could Google me at Noelle Silver, but Linktree has all of my links. So it has all the social profiles, my Amazon store, all the things. So if you want to find out where I am and maybe model what I've done, feel free to do that. All right, let's get started. This was me a few years ago. In 2019, I started getting pummeled with awards from the industry, which is very strange because little do many of you know, though I did publish this on Facebook, so some of you who are my Facebook friends know this, I did not graduate from high school. As a matter of fact, I totally dropped out because my economics professor walked up to me, looked me in the face and said, "You will never graduate high school. I will never pass you. you should probably go into customer service. You're real good with people. And walked away. Literally, like I remember those words like yesterday. And now, fast forward 20 something years, I'm like, oh, I see what happened there. But in that moment, I kind of was like, so I'm done then. I go work at Bennigan's or I go work at TGI Fridays, right? But of course I didn't. I actually became, which has served me very well as a female in tech, as a Latina in tech. I said, I'm actually going to go to school and I'm going to get into college without your silly little high school diploma. And I did. So granted, I did do very well on the SATs and the ACTs. So I use those scores, as well as I'm a good writer. So I was able to write a good story and they let me in. And I spent 3 years in university, but I then again came to a situation where I was like, this does not serve me anymore. So I quit. Lucky for me, it was Y2K. They needed people who knew how to code. Barnes & Noble had books to teach me how to code, and a new career was born. But never in my life did I anticipate being where I am now. But what I did do is I did create a list of goals. When I was 22 years old, I created a list of goals. I wanted to own my own company. I wanted to be an executive at a big tech company. I wanted to learn how to quilt. I wanted to run a marathon. And one by one, some intentional, some not so much, these things started getting knocked down. And it's so important. We know this, the power of intention. So what I want to do is take your mindset that you currently have, even if it's sitting nascent a little bit in your life, bring it back to the surface and tie it to the world's technology, right? Be in the world, but not of it, right? How do we take what we know that is right now gold to people and align it with what the world is doing? Social media, right? Getting online, building online businesses. How do we line the two up? And so I've now practiced pretty consistently how to do that. I wrote a book called The Most Positive Person in the Room. It literally was like Unity 101. Very successful. I have now just recently finished a book, which is now going to be a course called The Ministry of Influence. These things are not new. I've been doing them since I was 6 years old. And they're not new to you either, but the world doesn't know them. And some, as I mentioned, some of the most powerful speakers, presenters, business owners on the planet use these principles to create their community. They don't know it. They don't know that it's unity, right? But they use these principles and they don't use them inaccurately, right? They talk about the power of being present, the power of mindfulness, the power of setting intention, right? So many good things. And so this works. We just need to apply it to today's world. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. So I always like to start with, what the world needs now. Do we know this song? Right? Now is when we're like, take out our matches or maybe lighters and right, what the world needs. No, I'm not going to sing it for you, but what I'm saying. The world, right? What the world needs now is, maybe you're typing it into the chat. Love, sweet love. And part of being a lovefluencer, which is really this term that I coined just to represent everyone listening right now, all of you, you are all a lovefluencer, because I know, at least those of you who I know personally, and I would imagine because we have this shared identity, that you love first. Like that's where we come from. We come from a space of love unconditionally, agape love, right? And so I try to teach others this practice, because I do feel that our natural state is this loving state, and that we learn our way out of it. So mindset mastery is kind of the first thing that I always encourage people to kind of get back in the practice of doing. If you don't do this today, and some of you who are very successful in your own right, do these things and have found them to be successful. The one thing we're not doing though is telling those stories, sharing it with the world, using social media in a way that helps people. And so first things first, though, you should have a morning routine. I have one. I just did a talk on my morning routine. It's not unique, right? I get up. Maybe it is. I get up, I put my hand over my heart, and I feel for my heartbeat. I get still enough to feel for my heartbeat. And then I'm instantly, as soon as I can sense it, I become grateful for my heartbeat. Then I move to my breath. and I sit in gratefulness for my breath. And you can kind of tell what happens from there, right? As my awareness expands over my body, my gratefulness for all things, right? The fact that I was able to have kids, the fact that I have 4 children, the fact that we live in a nice house and we have a pool, and like the fact that they're happy and we go to school sometimes when I get them there, right? But I find a way, and I start with a smile on my face because I'm like, you know what? This isn't too bad, right? What a great way to start the day. We also end the day the same way. But once I'm up, the next thing I do is I actually attempt to go downstairs and do something good for my body. Whether it's actually, for me, it's 2 things. I take a bunch of vitamins. I don't like pills and stuff like that. So I take a bunch of like liquid vitamins, and then I go and get on my Peloton. I'm a Pelotoner. Do we have Unity Peloton people? Oh my God. If you are on Peloton and we are not friends, let's do that. Guess what? I'm Unity girl. So I'm Unity girl on Peloton. Find me. I'd love to, we could do classes together. It'll be a great time. But I make an effort every single day to do that work, to do something that's not just good for my mind, not just good for, my mindset, but something that's good for my body. And I get on, even if it's only 15 minutes, I get on. Usually I do 15 minutes and then I want to do 10 more. It's that getting on it that's the hard part. So after, though, I work out, I come, I get my water, I sit down, and I do 2 very important things that end my morning routine. One is I write down 3 goals: my personal goal, my professional goal, and my financial goal. And I write them down every day in little note. I have tons of these. I just fill them up. I never have to look at them again. It's the act of just writing it down. But here's what it's doing. It's setting my compass every single day. Every morning, I set my compass. This is what I want. This is the business I want. This is the financial outcome I want. This is what I want for my family. And I write them down. And sometimes it's 3 things. Sometimes it's 10. It just depends on the day. I don't memorize it. I just let it flow. What do you want? And it's future state, right? I don't have it yet. But guess what I do? As most of us probably do, we were trained to do it this way. I speak as if it's already true. And what I love about that is when I write it down as if it's already true, one day I might cry. One day I went and wrote something down and I realized it was already true. Like it manifested without me really paying much attention. And I went to write it down and was like, holy crap, this is true. Stop, pardon my language. You know what I'm saying though? When you have that realization that you are so in the moment working it, that you don't realize exactly what you've wanted is right there in front of you. Anyway, it was an amazing moment. And not many of us have had this, right? Where we do a vision board, put it away, bring it back out and go, wow, look at what we did. So these tactics don't go away. These are lifelong things, tools that you can use. I use them all the time. I don't do vision boards anymore, but I put on what I do. I use Post-its. And so I will put a Post-it. I have a typical software engineering Kanban board right over there. And I put up Post-its for what I want. And I say it as if it's already true. And then I get to move it to done when it's done. It's my unique way of doing a vision board, but it works for me. But no matter what, find a tool and do it. So that's the 4th thing I do is I write down my goals, personal, financial, and professional. And then the last thing I do is I actually sit and I journal. And what I journal is very specific. I got it from Tony Robbins. He does this visualization technique where he says in the morning, visualize yourself 3 years from now with everything you want. And it's like a movie screen, right? Where you watch. Well, I do that, but slightly differently because I like to write and I like to practice writing. And so I will write out exactly what I'm feeling 3 years from now when everything is how I want it. And so far, I've kept pace with that. I've been able to achieve within 3 years, right, a running 3-year loop, what I want because I stay focused. So writing down my 3 goals, here's the number one thing it does for you, is that it makes sure as opportunities show up in your life in that day, you can pick and choose what drives those goals that you wrote down that morning. You can say, no, that conversation is not going to serve my goals. It's not going to serve what I set my intention for. You can set boundaries. You can say no, and you can have a good reason because you have 3 things or 10 things that you are focused on, and those things do not serve it. It has been a really huge help to me, at least, because it's helped me realize that I don't have to say yes to everything, which some of us, we're service people. We want to help, help, help. But if it doesn't align with what I want, right? And the universe is nice. I get people who need my help that align with what I want. So it all works out, but I have to set that intention. All right. I think I mentioned attitude of gratitude. The last word is congruence. I always like to just put that on here because it's not enough to just do these things mindlessly, right? Like, oh, I'll write my goals. It's having congruence, or what we call the creative process, right? Aligning your ideas with, your thoughts, with what you say every day, with what you do every day. And it's, I think, pretty relatively easy to align your thoughts with what you say. I typically see people do that, but it's what you say with what you do where sometimes it gets a little tricky because life happens. You have, me, I have 4 kids all by myself. One of them with Down syndrome. My dad lives with me. He was just in the hospital. I just took him home today because he did something I told him not to do and he fell and hit his head. Right. And he ended up EEG, all the things. So I'm trying to do a health challenge right now. Did I last night go and grab half a pint of pralines and cream ice cream and eat it, even though I'm in the middle of a health challenge? Yes, I did. Because life happens. But I got up this morning and I wrote my goals, right? Because it's a routine that I can come back to. If I slip off that wagon, I am right back on within 6 hours. So something to consider. All right. So as you start, let's say right now, there's a part of you that's like, the world needs to know this, right? I've learned this lesson or lessons, and the world should know how you overcame. Here's the good news. You have 100%, you have overcome 100% of the things that have happened to you so far. 100% overcome because you're here right now listening to me in this like really cool virtual world, right? So you are 100% overcomer of everything you've ever experienced, which makes you smarter than everyone else who's currently still a victim in that space, in that place in their life, in that situation. You hold the key to them not feeling alone, to them not thinking there's no way out of this, which, trust me, many of us have felt that, right? I felt that. I'll tell you a very sad story. I won't cry about it because I've passed that, but it's emotional for me. I got fired from Microsoft, which granted was unfair and racially motivated, but whatever. I got fired. And in that moment, I did not know how I'd feed my family. Like, it wasn't like, here's 2 weeks severance, go do your thing, figure it out. Sorry, we don't want you to work here. They literally escorted me out of the building like a criminal. And in that moment, I was like, what am I going to do? But here's the beauty of what I'm teaching you right now. I had a personal brand. I did these things. I did this work. I figured out what I do, what I love, the cross section or Venn diagram, right? The cross section of what you love to do and what you're good at doing. Because let's face it, some of us are good at doing stuff that we don't actually want to do. Like me, fixing computers. People often ask me, can I do it? Sure. Do I want to? Not really. Right? But I will for my friends and family. But find that cross section of what you love and what you do well. And it's there. God wouldn't give it to you otherwise. Like, it's in there. So find that cross section. And that is where the world, the universe will meet you if you choose to. So know your strengths. Figure out what that cross section is. The way I figured it out is I wrote an entire list of everything I love to do. I included yoga, running, AI, all the things, marketing, everything I love to do. And then what am I naturally good at? And things like speaking, motivating, coaching, mentoring, right? And that's how I ended up with the AI Leadership Institute and Lovefluencers. Like, they both are uniquely Noelle. Like, people come to me and they're like, of course you own those companies, right? So how can you get closer to what is uniquely you? So knowing your strengths, this is an exercise that we do all in together in my course, but this is certainly something you can just grab one of your notebooks and start writing it down. The other thing I'll just invite you to think about it if you want to. You can ask people what they think you're good at. I'm not asking you to ask for their opinion of you. That's a very different question, right? You're not saying like, hey, do you think I'm okay at this? No. What you want to do is just say, if I just want to know, based on how you have seen me show up in this world, what are things that you think I'm good at? Just ask them. Ask them in an instant message. Ask them on Facebook Messenger. Ask them, in person. That'd be nice. Oh, in person. Right? Ask them and just get their perspective. But the most important thing to know about that is they are just little pieces of data to a much bigger answer. And if it helps you, great. If it doesn't serve you, let it go. But it is kind of interesting to hear people say, oh my gosh, Noelle, I see you as being really great at coding. I don't really like to code that much, right? Or I see you really great. I mean, most of the things that people say I'm really great at or think I'm really great at, I am, because I now talk about it. But in the early days, it would have been interesting to have more of that kind of reflection and collaboration with the people that I work with and talk to the most. All right, so let's get into it. I'm going to talk about 3. So far, we've talked about 2 of the kind of foundational steps to building an authentic, having an authentic message. And the next 3 things, which will make our total of 5, and I'm actually going to probably give you a lot more, but the last 3 things are all about the tools at your disposal and how you can leverage them. And some of these things I would encourage you, even if you do nothing with them, do them now. Establish it. We call it intellectual property. Identify it, put your stake in the ground. And even if you never build on that land, at least you have the land. And 10 years from now or 20 years from now, you might be like, darn, I'm glad I got that stake in the ground, right? So here is a couple of tips. First off, there's lots of different ways for you to share who you are with this world, and the world needs to hear it now more than ever. And one of those ways is with the written word. So the power of the written word allows you to basically write. If you're a good writer, if you're naturally good at writing more than any other medium, blogging is not dead. Some people think it is, but it isn't. It's alive and well, especially for people like me who like to read. I love reading. I voraciously read. Here's a cool thing that will happen with your blog is you start writing content, and I'll give you some tips on how to build content for your blog if you don't have a Kickstarter. When you are building your blog, if you write, let's say 20 posts, guess what you have now? You have a book. You have a little ebook that you can actually put those as chapters, right? 500 to 2,000 words. By the way, that's about as much as the human brain really wants to read in a sitting anyway, right? Is about 20 or so of those little short chapters. But you have that content. You can put it, you can combine it however you want, but you build a blog and you're writing your book one little message at a time. And you could do it intentionally or just start writing and sharing stories, and you may realize a pattern in the type of things that you're sharing and in the feedback that you're getting. So I'd encourage you first and foremost, go out and get your domain name. I mean your name. Like I have Noelle Silver. I also have had my other names. As a woman, think carefully about this. We are in a society. Some of us choose to take our husband's name, which is totally cool. Some of us commit for life or longer to those relationships. And some of us don't have that outcome. So I encourage you to think carefully about your brand name so that it'll survive anything. Like it's you, it's uniquely yours. It's your one little spot on the internet map. So I have Noelle.ai because that's uniquely Noelle, right? I have Noelle, and then I'm very into AI. I don't think that's going anywhere for me. I feel like I will do that forever because it helps everyone that I know to be into that technology and teaching people how to use it. But I also have noellesilver.com. So I did both, but I encourage you, grab the domain, even if you don't build a blog right away or a website or any kind of presence, grab the domain. You'll feel, or at least I felt good knowing that I owned that part of the real estate, and it literally is real estate in today's world. Then choose how you want to publish. You can use your domain name to create a website and build it, perfect. And the challenge with doing it that way, if you build your own, is everyone starts with nothing. Everyone starts with nobody watching, nobody listening, nobody reading. Everyone. Here's the beauty of it though. Nobody's watching. So you get to write and build anything that you want. You get to write what is your unique voice because no one's listening yet. So just do it. figure it out. Start writing. Figure out, when you write, you hone your voice. It doesn't happen without practice. And that practice is a whole nother level when you know it's going out to the rest of the world. So I encourage you to start writing and documenting. I always tell my students and people when I speak on stages, I always tell them, you have to go through awful to get to awesome. And it's true of every single thing we do. When we start walking, when we start talking, when we start getting into a new job, when we get into a new relationship, right? When we're learning about relationships for the first time, all of these things, when we're becoming caregivers of our parents, like we all start bad and then we get better. But you don't get better if you quit, and you don't get better if you never do it. So start and just start getting better. This will be true for all of the mediums that I'm about to share with you. But if you are wondering what to write about, which is often a blocker for some of us, the one thing I do, and I have a book, a dedicated purple book for it, I write down all of my stories. And I don't write the whole story. I just write because these are my stories, like they're experiences I've had in real life. So I know them. If I read like Time at the Canal in Florida, my brother would know this story, right? I don't need to write it down. Like I right now just got goosebumps because I remember that story. It was not a good story, right? And I know that, but now it's a peg, right? I just put down all the stories of my entire life. Here's an exercise. Start at the beginning, as early as you can remember, and write down all the things that have happened to you. And you can miss time. If you get stuck, go to the next memory that you remember. Write them all down. But that's just the first part. Usually what we remember is the conflict, is the challenge, is the bad experience. But then remember, we're 100% overcomers. We've overcome everything we've gone through. So what did we do? What happened next? When that bad thing happened or that challenge happened or we got stuck somewhere, what was the next thing we did to get to the other side? And then what's the other side? How are you going to help someone get there? Maybe this is your coaching business. Maybe this is you just creating a community on Facebook for people to be authentically themselves. Maybe this is a book you're going to write that you're going to invite people to read, right? It actually doesn't, there's so many different options, but this story arc, right? One problem, one experience, one thing that you struggled with, how you personally figured it out. And now what do? Now I'm a coach. Now I'm a minister. Now Now I teach artificial intelligence, right? Figure out a way to tell these story arcs so that they start hard. It's very common. Start hard, you fix it, and then you give them the tools to fix it themselves. This is how we change the world, or at least how I've seen change show up in my world. Okay, so that's the written word, but that storytelling is the exact same process I use for all the mediums that I'm on. The next is the spoken word. And this is good news for those of you who are like, I don't want to be on video, right? If some of us have, like I always say I have a voice for radio, not realizing I'm totally getting the saying wrong. Like I literally will say that and not realize that that's not the saying. But I love audio, and social audio is booming. What that means is you can teach by just talking. And actually, it is increasingly more engaging for people. I don't know about you, but I've gone on my phone, turned on YouTube, and put my phone down, put my earbuds in, and wash dishes while I listen to whatever I would be watching. The world wants to just listen as it's doing other things. Tony Robbins uses this term, no extra time. And for someone like me, who is consistently busy, has nonstop things to do, cleaning the house, doing the dishes, watching the kids, making sure homework's getting done, my dad, right? All the things. I feel like there's no extra time. I got no time to read, no time to listen, but it's not true. So now if I realize that I'm doing anything and I don't have something playing in my head, I like instantly I'm like, oh, where's my headset? I should be listening to something. There is lots of time in the little pockets of your life. So use that to learn. Re-listen to books that you love, or listen to new books. I am an Audible person, so I listen to books all the time. How many times have I listened to Harry Potter? Oh my gosh, but it brings me joy, right? How do we stay in that space? But here's what you can do for the world. You can use your spoken word. Today, I'm going to share with you a couple different things. We actually, Lynn's, I don't know if you know, but he is a podcast producer. That is his business. Do you know the wealth of people we have in this room, like amongst us? that could help us do so much in this world. But there are lots of different ways to do it. One, of course, you can build a podcast, and you could do it easier than ever. You could do it all right from your phone. I encourage you to just start, because yes, we all start having an awful podcast and then it gets better. Every podcast pretty much starts that way. Okay, maybe not NPR's, which I was, if I didn't tell you, the vice president of engineering at NPR. So I would know. But NPR is okay. They've got like an entire staff of people to do that. But if you're on your own and you're building a brand, it's okay. The good news is people who go and listen to you, right? I think I had 100 downloads yesterday. They're all people who know, like, and trust me already. They're coming to listen because they heard me somewhere else and want to hear me. They don't care that my audio is not awesome, or they don't care that I'm in my car. Eventually, though, which is what happened, right? I'll get picked up by a network, or I'll go to NPR, and they'll want to, I will evolve. And we should be really transparent about that evolution. A lot of us don't want to show up until we look perfect, don't want to show up until we sound great, sound professional. Sure, you could do that, but you could also just start and evolve as we go. So social audio today has never been easier. I want to give you one tool. There's a bunch on here, but one tool that I just started using. It's brand new. So if you want to get your voice into the world and teach people, serve people, there's an app called Wisdom. It is just starting just now. It is meant for people to teach. So you do audio talks anytime you want. You can choose to have people join you on stage or not, and that's a virtual audio only stage. But here's the beauty of it. They're talks. It's just practice. And of course you can delete them if you don't think it's perfect, but it's live. And that's what I love about it. Like, it forces you to just think on your feet. And this is why those stories that are just in you, they can come right out. They don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be choreographed. It's just you, authentically, uniquely you, sharing your story and how you got through it. Our overcoming stories are literally what will keep someone from making a bad choice, making a terminal decision about their life when they're like, holy mama, I am not alone. I cannot believe that she suffered that way and now is doing what she's doing. I can't believe he went through that and is now talking about it. I didn't know. Like, most people who make bad choices, they don't know that there's another option. So this is where you come in. All right. So that's the spoken word. If you are not good on camera, or I should say, I think you're all good on camera, but if you don't feel comfortable and you feel like more comfortable with just talking, I encourage you to look at it. I have a skill on Alexa because I'm a big believer in not just social audio, but also conversational AI. And I built a skill called open mindfulness. So if you go to, if you go to Alexa and say, Alexa, open mindfulness, that's me. I wrote that. I actually wrote over 100 skills, apps for Alexa. I have 1 million unique users of those skills. Guess what they are? They're all kindness, mindfulness, positive prayer, silent prayer, daily kindness, Christmas kindness. They're all unity-like stuff. That's where I did it. And guess what my group of people that I was working with, when I started writing those skills, you know what they said? That will never work on Alexa. Alexa's for the 1% of the 1%. They want this device in their kitchen. They don't want mindfulness. They were wrong, and they usually are, right? Because we know better. We know what people need. But now there's a way to get on Alexa in a low-code, no-code way. And I'm happy to help you with that. Not today, because, we got some time. But I definitely want to encourage you that what's in your mind, the thoughts you think, the ideas you have, and how you've overcome every challenge in your life, because you were in these unity principles, that makes you unique. And it also makes you extremely valuable to this world if and when you start sharing your stories. So you'll notice a theme here. Tell your story. Same thing. What bad thing happened, right? When were you the victim? How did you become the victor? And then how do they become, right? How do they become the vessel is kind of what I say, but how do you take that victorious message and help people actually do the same thing, or at least come close, have hope that there is a solution to the problem that they have. All right. Finally, the visual word. I couldn't think of a good way to say this. I will one day, but the visual word, right? Who we are on camera, just like I'm doing with you now. I will tell you that what I did as a Regi in Y.O.U set the stage for everything I do today. Talking on stage, all those things, like communicating, planning, everything that I did during the time I was a Regie, I use all that stuff every day. I firmly believe that because I did that work, it set me up. I mean, again, I started being awful on stage at a very young age. So I got to perfect it over time. But the visual word is like video or in person, right? When someone can see all of you. This is great for those people, not necessarily like this is not for the beautiful people. There are many people on this planet that are incredibly powerful when you see them. And it has nothing to do with their beauty. It has to do with their like the way that they exist and how they express themselves. Some of us, like I can express myself pretty consistently with my voice. Like people know I'm excited or know I'm smiling, even if they can't see my face. But some people, right, when you see them smile, you're like the room literally lights up. We all know people like this, right? or when they're sad, you are right there with them. And it's harder to do that with your voice. Some people are exceptional at doing this on camera or on stage or in person. And it's those people that I encourage to move towards video as a mechanism. Good news though, there is a way to do video with no face. Oh, fun fact. You could also become what's called a VTuber. Today we have this concept in the world called the metaverse, which basically means, I don't know if you've seen Ready Player One, but it's like that in real life. You get to go create an avatar. Today, avatars will model off of your facial expressions. And as you talk, you know, you've seen them on, if some of you who have an Apple device, you could go in and make yourself look like a unicorn, right? And talk like a unicorn. Yeah, or I guess anyway, you get the idea, right? So now you can create what we call a virtual version of yourself. When you talk, it talks. It's like a map of you, but it's not you. Now you get to reduce, it's still live, it's still interactive, someone's still looking at you, but it's not you. So you can kind of stand behind the curtain a little bit. And for some of us, that's useful. There's an entire industry of VTubers right now, of people sharing their content with the world where they're too shy to show their face, but they're not too shy to show their face overlaid with a unicorn or a dog or a robot, right? And you today can actually build those 3D models yourself with no code necessary. It's pretty cool stuff. So if you do decide to go to video, which I encourage you to do because it is the most engaged way of connecting on the internet today, I started on TikTok with 15-second videos. And the reason I did that is because 15 seconds is the attention of like a goldfish, right? Yeah, and the human brain. So unfortunately, or fortunately, I only had to do 15 seconds of content. So that's what I did. And as a result, people watched my whole video on TikTok. I got lots of algorithm cred because they did that. And I didn't have to record a bunch. I could literally shoot 15 seconds in one take. And here was the kicker though. I didn't care if it was that good. You should go to TikTok. Look, if you have the patience to scroll down to the very bottom of my feed, not amazing, but it's okay. Like it's the journey. And it's what I always encourage you to think about. Like show your evolution, show where you start. It's one of the things I loved about Charles Fillmore and some things that I've seen people hate about, right? I love that he just kept writing and his ideas would evolve and he kept writing and he'd be like, and now I've evolved to this idea. And some people would then in his talks on truth, right, would be like, but 2 years ago, you said it this and that. Yeah, I changed my mind. Of course, we change our mind. And we, as a community, can show the world that it's okay to change our minds. Be transformed by the renewing of our mind. Yes, of course we do. Of course we do. But let's normalize it, right? It's okay to change your mind. It's okay to evolve the way you think. But we just don't show it enough. So lots of good stuff. You can also go live. Live video is my favorite because there's no net. You just go. And if you mess it up, you just live in the messing up. And you're like, okay, well, here we go, right? You just live in it. I love that. I love it because it forces me to be present and it forces me to be accepting of who I am in that moment, whether I'm perfect, whether my words come out perfect, or whether I say like a saying wrong. Oh my gosh, what's another one? I always used to say, kick a gift horse in the mouth. And I wouldn't laugh because I actually thought that was the saying. Anyway, if you look up, that's not the saying. It's terrible. So some tips for success as we finish up. I want to give you guys a chance to ask some questions. If you have any questions, certainly start. Hopefully you've written some in now, but if you have any questions about this, type them in and we'll go through them. But tell your story and be uniquely you. It is by far, I mean, my skill set in the industry of artificial intelligence is not the best. It's not I'm not a better AI engineer than anyone else. But what's different is I'm the most positive person in every room that I'm in. And I am the most intentional. I'm the most intuitive, the most empathetic, and I set that intention. I use mindfulness before I go into every meeting, and people can tell, right? We could be such a breath of fresh air to this world if we actually are willing to put it out there. So tell your stories. And even if you don't, you could kind of just watch the world through a lens of storytelling, and you could document those, right? If you're not quite there at the place where you want to share your own. Consistency is key in this world. So you writing one blog post every 5 years, probably not going to grow your following too much. You're not going to build a community. And I will very candidly, I'm not as consistent as I want to be because I, of course, have done a bunch of stuff simultaneously. But I have the intention, and I'm constantly writing a goal, right? Of like build content every day. Today, I build content every day. What I should have said maybe is build content for this specific, this specific company every day. But I don't. I build content every day, but it's for a bunch of different things. But be consistent. Whatever you do, be consistent. And then we already talked about this, but show your evolution of thought. Show it's okay to change your mind, to go through and think one thing one day and have a completely different thing, challenges, conflict, all of that stuff changes who we are. So who you are today, I mean, I will tell you, I've had some pretty bad things happen to me. And I've become a different person every single time. Thank goodness, right? And now when I always tell my young women that I coach and mentor in technology, I always tell them winter is always coming. And on the surface, that may sound like negative, maybe, if you choose to see it that way. But what I mean by it is that there is always an opportunity to perceive your world as like, oh my gosh, this happened to me. This person did something to me, right? I was abandoned. My child has Down syndrome. My dad lives with me. My dad's in the hospital. Like all these things I could be the victim, and that could be my story. Most recently, I can tell you because you guys are my safe friends. Most recently, I was married. My husband did something to our family that he is now in prison for 8 years for the horribleness what? Like that could be how I start every sentence. I was hurt by this person. My family was hurt by this person. But no, I use it sometimes as the beginning of a victorious ending. I'm still writing my victorious ending, by the way. But that's the only reason I use those stories. They don't define me, right? They fuel me, but they don't define me. And I use another saying, which I'll close with. Many, many times people have told me, you can't do what you do. You're not smart enough. You're not technical enough. I mean, it didn't matter how true or not true it was. But the fact was they were telling me that I couldn't have it, that I couldn't do it, right? Starting in high school, again in college, every job I've ever had. When I went to Alexa to become employee 10 on the Amazon Alexa team, my hiring manager at the time told me, that's not for you. That is not for you to do. You should recommend someone else. Needless to say, it was for me to do. And I did it, and it changed the trajectory of my whole career. But the person close to me that I actually trusted said, I'm not really sure that's right for you. And it just goes to show, and now a lot of people are like, wow, I bet you want to show him. And I'm like, you know what? I work hard in silence, and I let success be my noise, right? I let what I do, how I show up, how I serve, how I help, be the loud part, right? Be the thing that people remember, be the thing that people look back and go, oh, I told her she couldn't do that. Well, good for her, right? I don't let the naysayers and the haters Like I like them communicating to me because they give me a lens that I can look through and go, is there anything true here? Right? Is there anything here that I need to fix? And then I get better. But then I let that go. And so hopefully you found this helpful, a wealth of information. We still have a good, hopefully 10 minutes or so, unless I was supposed to stop 5 minutes ago. But 10 minutes or so, we could take some questions. And of course, I do have this course. You can go, I think it's in my link. You can sign up. It's not available yet. I open up cohorts because I can't take everyone who wants to join. But you guys, I created this special bit.ly link for you and a special landing page. So if you want to, you will be the first, I promise you, to be in my first cohort of the Ministry of Influence. And here's the thing, you can learn this stuff, but it doesn't mean anything unless you actually do it. Learning by doing, in my experience, is the only way to fly. So happy to have you. This was an honor. Thank you so much for having me. I will stop sharing and maybe we could do a little Q&A. What do you think? Shall we? Let's see if I can find it. Oh goodness, we're in Inception. Okay, thanks. Awesome.
All right.
Are there any
well,
questions? Otherwise,
great.
I'll just.
That was amazing. I was just like sitting here on the edge of my seat, and I did post asking people if they had any questions. There were some. Callan, of course, commented that he loved your laughter, that it is gold, and he's right.
Gotta love my friends.
Yeah. And it seems like some people might be typing.
Nice. Type away.
So hopefully we can vamp until that comes together.
Absolutely. Well, I will tell you the most common questions that I get, or at least I'll start with one of the most common questions I get. And so, which may seem obvious, but a lot of people are like, well, okay, you showed us a bunch of stuff. Where should I start? So I have, and I'm just going to tell you what to do. But I have a PDF. If you email me or connect with me on social, I'll just send you the PDF. But it's just a PDF, and it's a 4-page PDF. In your case, you could write 4 different pages down of, like, just write a list of who you are, right? All the roles you play in life. And the purpose of these lists is to create a content calendar, all the things you can talk about. And then do 3 things in my mind. Pick one, write about it. And this is what, I'll tell you, LinkedIn Learning. I don't know if you're familiar with LinkedIn Learning, but last year I did a course for LinkedIn Learning on deep fakes. Fascinating work. 3 million learners signed up for that course. And I believe it's because I haven't, like, I'm not like any other, we're not like any other trainer in our industries. We're not like any other person who would share. So when you choose to take the stage, get on a podcast, you are so unique because we just talk different. We come from a place of knowing that's just different. Anyway, so LinkedIn Learning, they came back, they wanted me to do another course. And what they told me to do was they said, your first homework is to write out your first session, talk out your first session, and live video your first session. And the reason they did that is they said, what was the easiest for you? And I told them, well, live video. And they're like, great, we're going to do it that way. So I encourage you to do the same practice. Like, first write a list of all the roles you have in this world, all the things you do, all the things you do well. Pick one thing that you could talk off the top of your head without thinking much. Write it, speak it, and video it, and figure out where you felt the best. Mind you, at first, they might all feel a little yucky. But, try to be intuitive because that's where you start, and you just keep going. Okay, anyone, anything?
Absolutely. Yeah, it might be the one that's the least bad, right?
Yeah, the least bad, exactly. At first, because once you get good, you will find it's amazing. It's amazing, awesome. Especially once that first person writes you and says you changed their lives or you helped them get through a tough time. I'm telling you, that was the day I was like, oh, I'll do this all day long. All right, Rachel.
How do you see this method for authentic voice tone altering for artists and other creatives?
Oh, I was like, what is that? Oh, like the thing I'm talking about. Yeah, so I am on the bleeding edge, if you will, of technology. But today, many artists that become successful do so because they share who they are and why they're writing what they're writing, building what they're doing live. Like a lot of people on TikTok, some of the most popular artists on TikTok they're famous because they go live and do their art with their audience. right? They share themselves. Like I said, it's all about authentic sharing, transparency, candidness, because we grew up, or at least I grew up, where artists, musicians, like they were untouchable. Like I couldn't talk to them, I couldn't DM them, like they were untouchable. So the more touchable you can be, forgive the expression, right? The more accessible you can be. It's the number one positive comment I get from people younger than me is they're like, you, and I might cry just remembering people who have said this to me, like, you make it seem like I could just talk to you, but you're on stage with PhD people from Harvard, right? But you're the only one up there I actually feel like I could message and you would be my friend. And that is, I think, as an artist, as a creative, that's who we can be. We can give our gift to the world, but we can then be their friend. We could connect with them. And it doesn't have to be one-on-one. It doesn't have to consume all of you. You could just give yourself, like I do it in a one-to-many fashion, right? I do live Q&A calls and anyone can join. A few people ask questions, everyone learns, and I don't lose my entire day. Like I'm not on one-on-ones all day long. I just do one big call and say, hey, let's all learn from each other. But yeah, creatives specifically, the new way to get customers is for them to know, like, and trust you. And as soon as they know you and like you, they're going to want to buy everything you do. I mean, that's how I am. As soon as I find an artist I love, I mean, just think about the Grateful Dead, shall we? Right? Like as soon as you find an artist you love, it doesn't matter, good, bad, old, scratched, you'll buy it because you love them and you want to support them. And that's the future of the world, is that we are creating creator economies because people want to just support you. Isn't that beautiful? And we totally think that way. So we just need to align with what the world's already asking us for. Thank you. Great question. I hope that was helpful.
That was awesome. Here's another one.
Galen, what's up? Great question. All right. What shall we do? So I'm going to give you a couple. I'll give you two things you can do. One is easy. Just do it. It won't hurt you. One is a little bit more ambitious because you know me. I tend to go the ambitious route. So the first thing, the easiest thing you can do, and I actually think I put that on the slide, but never mentioned it, or maybe I deleted it, but is create a one-page website. Nobody wants the pages, the websites of like 2005 with an about me and a contact us. And we're not doing that today. We're not navigating that world. So especially Gen Z, we're kind of short, we want to find what we need right away. So create a one-page website, one page that says all the things that you want it to say. Oh, and it only a confused mind says no. So don't give your people coming to your page a bunch of stuff. Don't be like, I'm good at this and I do this and I'm a little bit in this, right? Pick one thing and again, this is for a starter. You'll evolve, but when you start, pick one thing that you want the world to know you for. They're going to know you for everything, but start with one. Build a site, one page, and then most importantly, this is critical, build an email list. Create a way for them to sign up. Now, people won't just sign up for your newsletter. I know, it's sad, but they won't just be like, if you put, join my newsletter. No. Or, get updated when I post something. No. But what they will do is they will give you their email, which is currency in today's world, right? It is the vehicle towards making money online is through someone's email address. They will give this to you if you give them something of value. So think about a checklist, a spreadsheet, a Trello board template, like whatever you'd use in your life that makes your life easier, templatize it and be willing to give that to free to anybody who wants to be in your community. Figure out what it is. It could be a song that no one else hears, but those who register with you. It could be a class. It could be audio. I've done what's called pocket coaching, which are just little audio files. Record yourself talking and then allow them to download those recordings, and only those people get those specific recordings. There's so many different ways to do it, but give value. And then we know this term, right? In Unity, like reciprocity kicks in. They'll give you your email address and now you're friends. So that's what I would encourage you. Oh, and then the more elaborate version is to use your domain on a pre-built site. So I personally like ghost.io. It allows you to create a membership site and monetize it based on your existing content. Patreon's another one, but it's so specifically like Patreon, right? It like even in the word, the energy of it doesn't make me feel good. So I like, not that Ghost does either, but Ghost represents the ability to create a platform that you own the messaging for. It's a little bit more in depth. There's a lot more features, but it is something that you just add your domain to, and all of the entire website's built. You just have to add the content. So that could be cool to look up. Thank you for the question, Callan. I appreciate you.
Awesome. I have one more question here.
Eddie, what's up, all my friends? Okay, so the question, what do I think of do-it-yourself efforts in order to avoid being beholden to outside companies as far as influence? This is actually a phenomenal question. Thank you for asking. Outside bigger companies, the good news about them is they already have traffic, right? They already have your audience somewhere amongst their midst, and you could get some of it. The challenge with that, though, A, is we may not be philosophically aligned with who they are as companies and what they do. But B, they can change their algorithm at any time, and any audience you build on those platforms could disappear overnight. Ask me how I know some other time. Disappear overnight. Like an algorithm that was treating you well and showing you first. Alexa did this to me. I was on the homepage of Alexa for 3 years. I made $50,000 on my skills in 3 years because they put me on the homepage. Then a bunch of people I taught built more skills, and my income dropped in half, like within 2 weeks of the next year, because they changed the way and I couldn't control that because it's Amazon. I don't own that traffic. I don't even own the customers. So yes, DIY in the sense that you build a presence that ultimately you get someone's email address. You own the communication. You own the ability to talk and serve those people. But it is, I believe, a hybrid. So distribute your content to all of the platforms, but then have some special content that only you provide, right? It's almost like the top of your ladder, right? The top of your ascension funnel for your customers. What's the highest quality stuff? Oh, you're coming to me for that. You're not going to go to Facebook. You're not going to go to YouTube, right? I'm going to give you that in my members area. And Ghost is a platform you can use to do that, but there's lots of them. I could give you a list if you want, but absolutely DIY, because you should own the resources and the customers and the contacts, because they're yours. They're your friends. And those friends will disappear. they will be inaccessible to you if you put all those eggs in the basket of a bigger company, especially one that you don't align with value-wise. So yes, there's definitely ways to do that. And that's why the first step I give every influencer I talk to is to get their own domain. Get their own domain, set up a very quick landing page that says, here's what I do. Here's my cheat sheet. Download it. I've got their email, and now I can talk to them anytime I want. Yes.
Awesome. This has been so great. So I'm so excited we did this, and this leads me to talk about one of my pet projects here, which is getting our group on LinkedIn going so we can help support each other in our careers. And so we do have a little group. There's like 17 members so far, and we would love for people to join. We have the link in our website just so that we can show love and show support in that part of our lives, and be involved with each other in that way. And so it's been a treat to reconnect with Noelle, and then we're like commenting on each other's posts, and it's a good time over there. So
it is. It's awesome. And it's professional, right? We're all going to be in different industries doing different things. And it's amazing. It's just so good when you see someone who knew you when, or who understands why you're doing what you're doing, be like, give you a little heart or send you a little love. Like, if that's the only thing we do, gosh, that's a huge influence on the world, right? I love it. So I just realized I could use that to post a lot of these links that I've talked about and tools that I'm early to know about a lot of different platforms. So I'll use that group and make sure you all are some of the first to know too. So I hope to see you over there.
Yeah, I use so much of what you post to sound smart. So thank you.
Anytime.
Also, I just wanted to share this one.
So many of us in different areas that are like, we have all this expertise. If we actually got together, the world.
Just want to share one last one here from Tiffany. Sure. No questions, just love and appreciation.
I love you, Tiffany. We gotta get together, y'all. We gotta get together. Come awesome. On, COVID.
Yeah. So at 5:45 Pacific and 8:45 Eastern. We're going to be doing some Leroy White dance, celebration dance. We're going to do that inside of Discord, and we encourage you to come and dance. It's a great way to honor him, honor your time in Y.O.U, and move your body. So this will be really, really fun. Noelle, thank you so much for being here, and goodbye, everybody. See you in a little bit. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.